So the conventional wisdom in American political media is that the country is center-right.
Look, the basic premise is most of the elite media is center-left, and most of the country is center-right.
So I'm going to leave the elite media being center-left for another video, but that isn't true either. The media at large is establishment. They don't really focus on either left or right issues, but they focus on what the powerful and the rich want. But anyways, that's for a different video. For this video, I want to explain why the country isn't actually center-right, as mainstream media and pundits like Hugh Hewitt would lead you to believe. So first I'm going to show you why the media thinks the country is largely center-right. And it's based on polling. So people actually identify more as moderates and conservatives. So this recent Gallup poll from 2016 shows that people identify as 36% total conservative, 34% moderate, and 25% total liberal. So that should be the end of the argument, right? I mean, people identify as right-wing and moderate. Hugh Hewitt's right, media's right, I'm wrong. Except that isn't the full story. So when we actually go down and look at policy issues, policy by policy, people largely lean left. So since I used Gallup polling for how people identify themselves, I'm also going to use Gallup polling for the majority of this video and show you that even with the same pollster, issue by issue, people are actually liberals. So let's start with health insurance. So in 2016, Americans were asked if the federal government should ensure that all Americans have health care coverage. Or is that not the responsibility of the federal government? Well, the majority of people, 52%, said yes, it's the government's responsibility to ensure that all Americans have health care coverage. And there's also other polling that backs this up, showing people want a Medicare for all system. So the results of this next one even surprised me, which is environmental protection versus economic growth. In 2017, Americans were asked, which of the following statements do you agree most with? Protection of the environment should be given priority, even at the risk of curbing economic growth, or economic growth should be given priority even if the environment suffers to some extent. And 56% of people in 2017 believe that protection of the environment should be given priority even at the risk of curbing economic growth. So where do people stand on increasing the minimum wage? Well, the results of this one may surprise you. So in 2013, people were asked, would you vote for or against a law that would raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour with automatic increases tied to inflation? So the important point here is increases tied to inflation, because $9 an hour, obviously we've evolved past that. So if you just do $9 an hour, the support is somewhere in the 70th percentile. But when you include an automatic increase tied to inflation, it comes down a bit, but it's still a vast majority at 69% support. So because that poll is a few years old and shows $9 an hour, I wanted to find one that was more current. So I looked around and I found the majority of polling showing a support for $15 minimum wage. And here's an example from thirdway.org. When asked, do you favor or oppose the minimum wage to $15 an hour, 51% favor. And the question that, in my mind, makes even more sense, do you favor or oppose a federal minimum wage increase based on the cost of living in a local area, 61% favor. So again, more polling that shows that people actually lean liberal. So I could probably end the video now, but I'm not going to. There's 3 more policy positions that I want to show you, and they're all major ones. So the next one up is taxes. So a Gallup poll from this year shows that Americans say upper income and corporations pay too little in taxes. So the numbers to focus on here are the two in the bottom right corner, 63 and 67. 63% of people believe that upper income people pay too little in taxes, and 67% of people believe that corporations pay too little in taxes. Again, these are 2 progressive positions held by the majority of people in the country. The next one is immigration, and I have to admit, even I was surprised by this result. So every year people are polled on what their support of immigration is. On the whole, do you think immigration is a good thing or a bad thing for this country today? And since the turn of the century, the majority of people believe that immigration is a good thing, with the number currently at 72% support. Okay, so I saved the best for last, which is cannabis legalization. And this is a number that has been steadily increasing the more people become familiar with marijuana and realize that it's not actually this deadly, scary thing that the media and big pharma want you to be afraid of. So many of you already know this, but the support for marijuana legalization is at an all-time high, at 60%. Again, another progressive position. Okay, so clearly people are way more liberal than the media wants you to think. But the issue is that the mainstream media only looks at how people self-identify. And just because you self-identify as something doesn't mean you actually know what that word is. People may think they're conservatives, but if they actually look at polling or actually look at the policy positions, they may realize they're not actually as conservative as they think they are. But I did kind of lie. There's one question that doesn't lean liberal, and it's one that it's treading in the right direction, but it's not there yet. And that's the death penalty. So, are you in favor of the death penalty for a person convicted of murder? The majority of people favor it at 60%, but the number is declining. There's also one more that I didn't really know how to fit in here because I was trying to look into how people feel about America being interventionalist. So I didn't quite find the answer to that, but what I did find is the US adults' preference for nation's role in world affairs. So as you can see, the majority of people from 2001 to 2009 to 2017 support the US having major or leading role in world affairs. Which honestly, if I was asked this question about Canada, I would also want Canada to have a major and leading role in world affairs. That doesn't necessarily mean that I want Canada to be interventional in how they conduct military operations. So once and for all, I want to dispel the myth that Americans are largely conservatives. They're not. They are liberal. You just have to look at polling. Instead of looking at the polling of how people self-identify, look at the polling that actually matters. The polling on policy positions. If you look at the policy positions, as I showed you, Americans are clearly liberals. A lot of them just don't realize it yet.